Morning, it's Martin from Martin's Engine Services. Here on the bench in front of me is some of the components from the 2001 Ford Puma 1.4 SE engine, which I'm currently in the process of overhauling. Stripped it down yesterday afternoon and as I showed in the previous video, it's all very clean in the top, and I wasn't expected to find anything horrible in the engine. There was no indications of any problems. However, I have actually found one quite serious problem, which fortunately hasn't done any major damage to any other components in the engine, but I'll get back to that in a moment. All the pistons came out okay. Usual signs of skirt marking on these because they're very short skirted pistons. You can see the gudgeon pin obviously sits here, and you haven't got much skirt below it, and these are prone to a little piston slap. It's not uncommon and doesn't really do any harm. Just a bit of scuffing on the skirt here on the coating, but nothing serious. The oil control rings, as always with these, are pretty worn and starting to sort of stick in the piston. In fact, this one here, which is number 3, well and truly stuck in. The second ring, or scraper ring, on piston number 2 here did actually fall in half when I took it out. And if I remember rightly, this was a cylinder that had about 210, 215 pound compression, compared to the others all around too. So it's quite amazing. This is basically just one piston ring doing everything, but there we go. Slight signs of oil starting to burn on the piston crowns, and likewise you're just seeing it here on the inlet valves. They're just starting to get a little sticky with oil. It's not at the stage where these would be drinking lots, but it's pretty typical of this engine type. So you can see it just literally wipes off. So I mean, otherwise you see the exhaust valves are in remarkably good condition. There's very little carbon on them, so it was all running very nicely by looks of everything. Big end bearing shells don't exhibit any nasty signs of wear. There's the inevitable little patch on the thrust side, the working face of the bearing. I'll find one with the bottom bearing in it somewhere. There we go. Bottom bearings all pretty good. They haven't moved in the housing, so the rod's all nice and clean. There's nothing there, all clamped up nicely. So that was all fine. However, what I did discover was while I was undoing the pistons and rods, I did hear a couple of times, or I thought the crank was moving. Like the end float seems excessive. Now, if I can get the crank in the right place, get hold of it, you can hear that. That is the amount of end float in this crankshaft. Let's get a prising implement and see if I can just prise it backwards and forwards so you can get some more of an idea. Right, it's fully forwards now. It's got probably close to 1 millimetre of end float in, and in fact I can actually see, I don't know if the camera show, yes, pointing implement, down there at the end of the screwdriver is a gap, and you see a little bit of red through there. That's the tray underneath. That is the gap between the thrust washer and the crank face. I think that's a tiny bit more than factory spec. Now, I'm quite surprised that it hadn't got to the stage of side loading the con rods against the journals here. It must have been right on the cusp of the rods actually pushing on the journal. Although, you know, there's enough play in the little end, or enough side play in there to prevent that. So, yeah, there's enough compensation for that. The bearings themselves in the main bearing carrier don't show any signs of any abnormal wear. There's only on the centre one here, you've got a little polish patch here, a little polish patch here, and slightly worse on the back. There's no grooving or any real deep gouges, but you can obviously see that the crank has been walking backwards and forwards. This is evident on the crankshaft. I'll just get it out the block and then put it on the bench. Right, on the nose of the crankshaft where the oil pump sits, there's some quite bad grooving here, and also obviously where the front seal sits, because the front seal's been going backwards and forwards. The oil pump's been working on there. The seal wasn't leaking. The oil pump's got no wear inside at all. And likewise, you can see with the rear oil seal, As you hear it, the rear also has been going backwards and forwards. I'm rather curious about this crankshaft in so much that it would appear that it's almost very soft because the groove in there is quite bad, etc. But the wear here on the thrust face, you can't really see properly. It might be to just get the angle right. There's a shiny line, a pointing implement. There's a shiny line, the tip of the blade here, and then it literally is just a gouge all the way to where the thrust bearing over the full width, and it's really deep. I mean, it's a good 0.5 millimetre plus actually. The corresponding side here is absolutely perfect. I mean, this is obviously the side that takes all the thrust when you depress the clutch, and so this side absolutely feels fine. Now the thrust bearing is astonishingly, get it out of the block. It's obviously quite happy to stay in the block. Really, that's launched it. Now on the good side here, you can see these cutouts of the face of it where the oil comes out from it, and the face is perfect. And you flip it over and, well, it's gone. We see the thickness variation between the two sides. I measured it, and this is actually 0.5 mil down. So coupled with that, you've got a good millimetre of end float in the crankshaft. Now you can get oversized thrust washers for the earlier type engines where these are independently mounted to the main, but I don't think, even if you could get wider ones or oversized, there's no way that would grind out because that's just so deep. You're probably ending up needing like 1.5 mil wider overall. So unfortunately, that's done for this crankshaft. As you can see, the journals are absolute. I haven't measured them, but the journals are perfect. There's very tiny marks on a couple of them, and a quick polish, and this crank will be absolutely perfect. I mean, you see it's spotlessly clean. Everything else is in good order. So it's quite surprising just how much. If you can get in there any closer. Well, I think that shows it nice. You see that hideous groove in there. That's basically what it's munched off. So there's no abnormal wear on the other side whatsoever. And surprisingly, in the sump, I mean, there's a little tiny bit of, and this is just old oil, but there's no grey paste or anything in here, or ground up bearing surface. You'd expect some grey off the cast iron, really. Tiny bit, but nothing out of the ordinary. Although I do suspect this has had a lot of oil changes, because although the oil in there is slightly off, well, you can see it's actually quite clean really, it's still in very nice condition, so it's probably had a lot of oil changes, which has probably helped keep it clean. And I guess this has been an ongoing saga for quite some time, so unfortunately that is it for the crankshaft. So we'll have to find another good used crank and install it. And otherwise everything else in the engine is fine. So it's never been apart before. This is all the factory sealant. I've taken off the factory gaskets, factory head gaskets. So a most strange scenario. Not what I was expecting to find in there, given the fact the rest of the engine's in remarkable condition. I mean, here's some of the other components. I mean, the camshafts are perfect. The journals are absolutely lovely. There's nothing wrong with these at all. The bearing caps are perfectly clean. There's no metal gone through. There's no scoring. And I haven't cleaned any of this. This is just literally, I've undone it. In fact, you can see how clean this engine was, because this is actually the inside of the rear oil seal carrier. And you can see it's, well, there's not even any dirt in it. Same as the oil pump. And there is no marks in here at all where the oil pump ran on the crank. It's absolutely perfect. So nothing wrong with that. I mean, get some idea of the usage it's had, because this is actually the original clutch plate. It's got the dates and all the Ford numbers on it. And although it's probably about sort of 60-70% worn, the lining's equal both sides. You see the grooves are still in it. The springs are all tight. Likewise, the pressure plate it's got some rust on where it stood, but there's no signs of it ever been driven hard or abused or anything. And it even had a Ford factory timing belt fitted at some point in its life, which doesn't look very old, and the tensioner is equally new, so that'll be going back. But you can see everything's in remarkable condition, but one component has worn out badly. And I can only presume it was a badly manufactured, or just a soft iron finish on the crank, or wasn't hardened properly, or I don't really know. It's bizarre. I say, given by the way the oil seals sort of torn into it, and the fact the oil pump's torn into it as well, does make me suspect this may be just a little soft. But there again, there's no wear or anything else, so I guess we never know the cause of that one. But I thought I'd bring you along, make a little video about it, sort of show what I'd found, and rather interesting discovery. So totally not what I was expecting, but well, sometimes you find these things. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed this little update on what's going on and what I found, and please like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.